Hotty toddy, Ole Miss fans, and welcome to the Brad and Chad Show on the OM Network. Brought to you by Blue Delta Jeans, made in the USA. This is the show by and for Ole Miss fans, where you'll get expert insight and analysis on Ole Miss athletics. And now, here are your hosts, former Rebels Chad Flowers and retired NFL star Bradley Sowell.
Podcast time.
November 27th, 2022. We are post-Thanksgiving. The regular season is over. A very sour end to the season for the Ole Miss Rebels. Bradley, how was your Thanksgiving, though? Let's talk about that first.
Man, great. The best day I've had, though, was yesterday, right? Like, it's the first time I've really just taken a full day off, stayed in my house shoes, hoodie, and underwear, sat on the couch with a cover, watched college football from 12 all the way till night. And plan to do a lot of the same today. I mean, plan to watch some NFL football. So an awesome weekend, man. I mean, other than the fact we lost, but just an awesome weekend.
Good. I do have a quick question for you. So we were kind of chatting during the Egg Bowl on Thursday. One of our good friends, CEO of Blue Delta Jeans, Nick Weaver. Blue Delta Jeans, remember, handmade in the USA to fit you and only you. It seemed like he was in a medically induced coma during the Egg Bowl. I want to make sure he is okay. Can you kind of give us a quick update on our friend Nick Weaver?
Yeah, Nick got really tired. I'm not sure why he got so tired. A lot of things can lead to tiredness. I think maybe the turkey, maybe some of they say turkey makes you tired. I'm going to blame it on the turkey. At halftime, he's laying there, sleeping, snoring away. And dude, he had to wake up and watch the game the next day. He didn't know who won when he woke up.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe we got a narcolepsy issue. So, Nick, if you're listening, maybe you may want to go to the doctor, get that checked out. It's just two friends chatting about your well-being. So hopefully you're okay today. And, try to get that figured out. That's kind of concerning. So good Thanksgiving here. Still down here in Pontotoc. We're going to head back tomorrow. Looking forward to that, getting back into the routine. But, obviously we need to talk about the Egg Bowl. We need to talk about the Lane Kiffin situation. But before we do that, I think it is very fitting. Let's give a shout out to the Ole Miss men's basketball team. Okay. They are down in Kissimmee, Florida. They've beaten Stanford. They beat Siena. They are playing for the championship in the ESPN Events Invitational against Oklahoma today. Yep. We're recording this around 9:00. So at 12:30 Central Time today on ESPN, they're going to be playing Oklahoma. So Kermit, friend of the show, Kermit Davis, has his guys up 6-0 without their best player. It's key to remember. Deshaun Ruffin is not playing right now. He is injured. So you've got Amari Abram, Jamin Brakefield. They've been great. Jamin Brakefield's from Duke. So let's give a quick shout out.
Abram is dude. He's drawing me in.
He's a freshman.
I always look for that player that makes me drawing in. It's him, and I'll be interested to see what he does whenever Ruffin gets back. How they're going to use those two together and. They're off to a good start. I like this team. I mean, I think they play some good defense. They can kind of score a little bit right now, which is nice. Yeah. And that's what we've been lacking the last couple of years. And I'm in right now. I'm in a lot earlier than I usually am on basketball. So this is gonna be great.
Yeah, the SEC as a whole seems to be tougher on the basketball side this year than football, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's a really, really good start. We didn't really know what we were going to get. A lot of new faces on Kermit's team this year. But yeah, just wanted to give a quick shout out because obviously a lot of attention is going to the football team, and rightfully so. They're a huge cash cow for the university, but we need to make sure and do our due diligence and give a shout out to Kermit's crew because they're playing really well right now, and they've already exceeded some of the early season expectations that we've had for them.
Yep, no question.
All right, so let's dive right in. So we're not going to get in too much detail about the Mississippi State game. It's been 3 days, what have you. So you've probably already listened to all the recaps, seen all the news clips, all that. But let's just talk quickly about the disappointment that we felt after that game. The weather was poor. The play on the field was relatively poor as well. The Rebel offense was basically turning their tires the entire game. One interesting thing that I listened to in Lane Kiffin's press conference, their defensive coordinator from Mississippi State really kind of threw a wrench into the works. He was essentially what Lane said, that they were doing a lot of zero blitz on 1st and 10, which really threw them off guard. Bradley, real quick, for those of us that are not as in tune with the game, kind of tell us what zero blitz means and why that can cause a problem for the run game like it did on Thursday night.
Yeah, so zero blitz is essentially where there's no middle of the field safety. So you got all man coverage. You're usually bringing 7, I would 8 maybe, to depend on what you have at wide receiver. But yeah, I mean that's essentially like giving them all man coverage with no safety, bringing the safety as well. So it's usually it's a hit or miss. Now it's usually either a touchdown or a sack, and they were definitely doing that. Yeah, they were definitely doing a lot of zero, which kind of affected the run game for sure. I wish we'd open it up a little bit more. Just looking at the game, I think there were some passes there. But like Lane said, I don't know that we were really prepared for them to be bringing zero all the time, really selling out. Like Lane said in his press conference, he was like, Arnett was coaching like that was his last game.
Right. Yeah.
So, really going at Ole Miss, which but that's, if you look at Ole Miss's team, that's what I'm doing. That's the first person I've seen really go at it like that. But if I'm playing Ole Miss, that's what I'm doing. I'm making Dart throw it and making him make decisions. Yeah, we'll hit a few of them, but make him throw it, and let's stop the run on the way to sacking him.
I think one of the biggest takeaways I had after learning that from Lane is when we look at the entire picture of the season, the wide receiver position for the Rebels really was a disappointment overall. Right? When you're thinking about the zero blitz, that means you've got to have guys that are going to beat those matchups with the defensive backs. And there were some critical drops in that game from Mingo, from Heath. That I felt like that kind of turned the tide, and that kind of overshadows the entire season. But I really felt like the wide receiver we thought was a deep room at the beginning of the season, it really turned out to be one of the weaknesses of the offense.
Yeah, well, it was just average. Super average. You had some SEC guys, Heath, Mingo, but we didn't have like that guy, right? We didn't have that guy who can go out and make a play when you needed it. And you look at the game, man. I mean, there were some bad drops in there. That game in a whole, if you look at that game overall, that was just Ole Miss beating Ole Miss. I mean, we were up by double-digit point. We were up by 9. We're up by 9 points at one point in the game. I mean, you got to finish drives in the red zone. That was kind of our problem all year. I mean, our red zone offense was atrocious, man. Like we had no creativity. You get to third down and we're running up the middle or throwing it out to the flat, like just stuff that to me is like, man, can we do something? Can we do something where it's past the sticks? Are we going to ever attack the sticks on third down? I know his thinking on that is hey, I go for it on fourth down, so I'm able to run the ball and do stuff like that on third down. It makes sense, which that's kind of goes with it as well. But in a game like that, I mean, even I know he likes to go for it, but in a game like that when it's raining, take the points. Because it came back to lose you the game essentially, and just like it did versus Alabama. I mean, you wish you would have had those 3 points, late in the game instead of having to kick a field goal and tie it or win it. You're having to score a touchdown. So
what was your take on
you got to take the points.
What was your take on the 2-point situation at the end of the game there?
I had a great play call. It was there, but I think Dart. If you look at that play, Dart probably should have. Sold it a little better, maybe gave a couple steps in the run as he's running it. But the D lineman, Dart kind of stayed in place and the D lineman didn't fall for it. So, I mean, I think the 2-point play was fine. If he gets the shovel to Mingo, he catches it. He gets in there. I think he gets in there. It was a fine play call, but I don't think the fake was quite as, it wasn't quite as telling as it should have been.
Yeah, I saw a lot of, and frankly, I was in the same boat. I was pretty critical of the timeout situation when it happened. However, I did listen to Lane's press conference, and it made a little bit more sense. Let's play that real quick, Patrick, and we'll talk about it.
And 2-point play at the end, we have the play and the look that we want, and they don't pump the clock back up, letting them substitute. So we have to use a timeout. And then they go over and coach up and have a different look. So we have to use a timeout.
So for me, looking at it from that perspective, that's probably your best chance to tie the game instead of having to rely on your defense again to get a stop, go down, kick a field goal, which would ultimately win the game. Listening to that, I am less critical of those 2 timeouts because of the explanation that he gave, considering this is probably our best chance to tie the game right here. What were your thoughts when hearing that?
Yeah, no, he's right. You have to you can't rush through that and thinking too far ahead in that situation. That is the situation. That's the tie of the game. That's the most important situation. If it calls for having to take a timeout to make sure that you put your best foot forward, then you have to do it. I think
at the time I was pissed. I thought that this was a lack of preparation. We get into this team's not focused, that type of thing. That's how I initially took it during the game, but I softened on that stance a little bit after listening to that.
Yeah, you have to, right? If you don't want to go out there and rush to that, and then all of a sudden you don't get it, and you're just, I got my timeouts, now I have to do a full stop and drive as well. Yeah. You just can't. You can't plan. I mean, you can plan ahead, but that would be. You want to make sure you have your best play. What you think's your best look. He did the right thing there.
Okay, so Rebels finish 8-4, 4-4 in the SEC. Let's talk post-mortem a little bit and kind of evaluate the season. If I would have told you before the season began, the Rebels would finish 8-4. Are you taking it, or do you feel like that's the floor or the ceiling of this team going into the season?
Yeah, I feel like that was the floor, 8-4. But 8-4 is fine. It's the way in which we did it, right?
If we were to shuffle the schedule and we play Alabama earlier in the season, LSU a little bit earlier in the season, I don't feel like the disappointment is as high.
No, the disappointment simply comes from the way the end of the season
played out,
right? Like, it just felt, at the end, all this could have been avoided. Now he's planning on staying, but it felt like this all could have been avoided. Like let's go ahead and lock it in there. Keep that excitement going. But I feel like it created so much damn, talk and unnecessary, worry and anxiety for a lot of the players, the fans, and stuff. And now it's now you look up and people are pissed, but at the end of the day, 8-4 is solid. It is solid for a team that's completely rebuilding. But I think it's the way that it ended. They remember in November, it was a goofy quote that was always said, but that's the truth, man. We finished on a 3-game losing streak, and a couple of them in which we should have won. So it's it's a crappy feeling, but at the end of the day, we still need to move forward and try to win this bowl game. Try to go 9-4. You got your coach back, so it's you got to move forward from here.
Yeah. So obviously the elephant in the room for the last 3 weeks at minimum has been the Lane Kiffin situation, especially with Auburn. Now it's come out. I don't think anything's official as of right now when we were recording this. I don't think Lane Kiffin has signed the extension, which in fairness to him, has been consistent with how he's done his previous extensions. He's waited until the end of the season. But the rumor is the new deal is roughly 6 total years. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, the state of Mississippi says 4 years, and that's still the case. But the Athletic Foundation is going to take on the additional 2 years. I don't know exactly how all that works. Average pay for this deal is going to be $9 million, which we're talking Ryan Day at Ohio State type of money. And yeah, I think that when we're talking about money, that's a lot of money for someone that their best win this season was probably Georgia Tech or Vanderbilt. But that's table stakes at this point in the game, right?
Congrats to Sexton and Kiffin. They won that game of poker. I can tell you that right now. That not only did they win it, they destroyed it. Yeah. They knocked that out of the park. So that was a great job. 8-4. To get an extension like that is outstanding. So I guess that's why you hired Jimmy Sexton, right? He absolutely took he kind of took Keith to the woodshed there. That was pretty good on their part.
Now, the buyout is supposedly one of the highest in the conference. And so, if you're not familiar with the term, a buyout, if Lane were to go to another school, that school would have to pay to get out of the contract that he is currently under. And I'm told that it's high enough where Ole Miss would immediately be able to go and get the coach they want, as well as the assistants they want, assuming that the assistants were leaving. So that is a silver lining in that contract situation. And I'll say this. we knew, and this is kind of what Ben Garrett said when he was on our show this earlier this week. This is kind of what we signed up for. Mm-hmm. Lane Kiffin is a brand. He is a commodity, at least in name only, at minimum. And there are going to be people that think that, hey, he can do it for us because of how he has put Ole Miss in the spotlight. So that is kind of what we signed up for. My only real critique is he could have been a little bit more demonstrative with, I'm staying. Was he using this as leverage for the NIL situation? If he was, it worked because the Grove Collective announced $10 million just for football that he's going to be able to go out and get his hired guns. I just wish that it could have been a little bit more demonstrative that, yes, I'm staying. But once again, he might have been playing a game here. He is a little bit of a troll, so he might have been playing a game to get what he wanted, and he never planned on leaving to begin with, even though people in the administration thought he was gone as late as Wednesday of this past week.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the reporting of this, all the sourcing, quote unquote, it was all over the place. There's a lot of people now. A lot of people now are saying, "Oh, I told you." Well, hell, y'all guessed every damn scenario in the book. I've seen everything reported. But, I mean, from the time this thing happened all the way. I mean, I've seen everything. I've seen he's gone. I've seen he's staying. I've seen. We're hiring Hugh for. I mean, it's unbelievable. The amount of guessing and sourcing in this has been hilarious. Especially for the ones that are paid to do it. But yeah, man, it's just it's a situation where that's just the way he is. We got to just. I think at this point, you just got to accept it. And I don't think he really, people may have gotten a little too upset about it a little too early. They and I think he could have handled it different. But I think this is just what it is. I think this is just his brand. Yep. This is how he is. And kind of like Ben was saying the other day. It's the experience. It's the Lane Kiffin experience. It's what you sign up for. And you hate that it ended that way. I mean, the sucky part about it all is, had he won those games, people aren't even as mad. Right. They're just they're giving the benefit of the doubt. But it's when you get your ass kicked by a team that turns around and loses to Missouri, and then it just it's not. It's just taken a lot. It's taken a lot to kind of cool down from it.
I will say this in defense of some of the reporting that happened, with the exception of John Sokoloff, who really said it's happening. He was very.
I don't know this John guy at all, but man, this guy's getting
and Lane has been very critical of him on Twitter, which I don't necessarily disagree with, considering how John phrased that. Now, what I will say to this, I kind of feel like fans are to blame a little bit with a lot of the sourcing that's going on with the reporting, because we eat this shit up, right? I want to know, what are the rumors out there, what's going on, and that's just what they're being told. And frankly, a lot of us pay, whether you're talking about some of the recruiting sites that you have access to, we do pay for that, right? Because if I'm not getting rumors every single day, then what am I paying for, right? Except I'm going to go on the message boards and speculate. So there is a little bit of an element that they're kind of giving us what they want, because they did categorize a lot of those rumors where that's what we're hearing right now. It could change, because I did see a lot of qualifiers that said this could change. So I think fans
it's the greatest hedge in America. It's the greatest hedge in sports. Like you have to you have to, because that you're guessing.
But when you have a guy that plays everything, who we've talked about, Lane Kiffin has a very small circle. And I truly believe that the administrators really did not know what he was going to do. And those were the sources that a lot of the reporters were leaning off of. I think Kiffin played this the way he did because he is not an outgoing person, which you can see in every single interview that he does. So that's the only caveat that I'm going to put on that, is just because you're trying to get information from someone that doesn't give out information to anyone. And I think that played to Lane Kiffin's benefit in this situation. But like I said, I think he could have been a little bit more demonstrative. Now, let's talk.
What do we do from here? Where do we go from here? What do you think is the best way to handle this? Where does Ole Miss fans need to go from here?
Well, here's what I'm watching, because if we want to, winning cures everything. If we go out and we put together a 9-10 win season next year, nobody's going to remember what happened. So here's what I'm looking for: the transfer portal is about to fire up. If this was a huge distraction, if players really do not like Lane Kiffin, you're going to see an exodus. If that does not happen, then the team wants to play for Lane. This team is still built for the future, and next year looks bright. So that's what I'm looking for, is the core of this team, is it going to stay together? Now, Quinshon Judkins, it's not official yet, but it does sound like he's going to be signing that NIL deal with Ole Miss. That means he would be staying in Oxford. That is another big plus to Lane Kiffin staying here with the Ole Miss Rebels, because I was pretty confident that if he goes to Auburn, Quinshon Judkins, Alabama guy, he's going with him. So I will say the one thing that I'm looking for is, what does the transfer portal look like for Ole Miss in terms of who's leaving Oxford? If the product on the field continues to improve, all will be forgotten, all will be forgiven. And that's just the fickle nature of fans, if you ask me.
Yep. I mean, my stance is as such, and it's going to stay this way, right? Like, I like Lane Kiffin. I think he's a solid football coach. I think he's a bit overpaid now based off what he's accomplished.
He does need to earn it.
But at the end of the day, and my stance is going to stay the same. I'm pro Ole Miss, always going to be. Yep. I guess I played enough football to know that not one coach or one player can ever be bigger than the team, and that's the damn truth. You know, there's going to be more coaches come in and win. There's going to be more players come in and be All-Americans, and that's always going to be my stance on that. But him staying is the best case for Ole Miss's
100%.
100%, because it goes to what he's built so far. And this is why I was frustrated. You know, I said a long time ago, why the hell would he want to leave based off of what he's built, right? And we have all these, we have Judkins, we have all these guys in place, and he's so close. He's right there on the cusp. I mean, we led, so we had 4 losses, right? And we led 3 of those games by double digits. Okay, that's damn impressive. And a lot of that is the youth, right? Once this youth gets a little bit older and gets that killer instinct, we will finish those games. But that was my frustration, and it was, hey, we shouldn't even, if you look at what he's got, this is the best situation, period. I mean, he has a chance to really compete in the next couple of years, and this is the best thing to happen. This is the best scenario. I know a lot of fans are mad. I was mad at the way he handled it.
I was too.
I was more so frustrated with the way people are acting like this is the end of the world for Ole Miss. Now, that's never going to be the case, okay? If we'll pay, you can bring in whoever you want. If you're willing to pay and play with the big boys, I'll never get enamored with one guy thinking he's the whole brand. But it's the best case scenario for Ole Miss, because he's going to keep everything intact, keep their momentum going. And I think you're right. If you look at the portal, that's going to tell me a lot. I don't anticipate a bunch of guys jumping in the portal. Either. I think our core will still be there, and I think if anything, if you look at what Judkins did at running back, if you look at Dart coming in and being a solid quarterback for us, I still think he's got a long way to go. We're even more intriguing for portal players, right? Hey, look what Lane Kiffin will do for you.
Jackson Dart with that 99-yard drive to put us in the position to tie that. He showed me a lot, considering how the game had gone to that point. Jackson Dart continues to improve. He's going to be one of the top. Man. He's going to be one of the top tier quarterbacks in the conference next year.
Well, he was a freshman this year, and I think he showed a lot of.
He was a sophomore. I think we said he was a sophomore. I thought he was a freshman as well, but he is a sophomore. But still, he still has years of eligibility left. But yeah, he's.
Did they classify him as a sophomore?
Yeah, on the Ole Miss website they do. Yeah.
Well, in my mind, though, he's a freshman, right? He didn't play hardly that much last year. He's a freshman in this offense. So, to me, for him to be his first full year in the SEC as a starter in some big situations, I mean, I think he showed a lot. And how about what he came out and said after the game? Like, pretty much like, hey, he's
I'm here,
blocking
whoever
out the noise. I'm here, whoever. Man, that's dude. You talking about whoever got in his ear and said, hey, if you want to win a fan base over, here's how you do it.
He did it.
He knew what to say there. Kudos to him, because this day and age now, everybody wants to run off and leave. And the reality is, half these people aren't going to go off and do shit. Half these portal players are going to go off and be up on a smaller team. When if you're at an SEC school, man, compete, enjoy it, make the best of your situation. If you're good enough to play and good enough to make it to the next level, you will start for that SEC team, and you will be a good player. If not, there's really no. I mean, I guess you want to have fun. You can go to some of these smaller schools and play. But man, I just remember when I was here, you compete, and if you don't like your situation, you change it. You don't run off and leave. So he could have been that guy. I'm leaving. I came out. No, dude, he embraced Ole Miss right there and said, hey, like I'm going to be here and be your quarterback. So I think that was cool. That was kind of a good moment by him.
So we'll talk transfer portal a little bit more in just a second. But speaking of the transfer portal and speaking of money, Jeff Griffin, Stevenson Griffin Group at Baird Private Wealth Management. You can give you can go to the group's website, stephensongriffingroup.bairdwealth.com, or you can always give them a call, 662-841-1900. That's Jeff Griffin with the Stevenson Griffin Group. Bradley, if you were Lane Kiffin, you've got $10 million in your war chest to go and get what you want. What are the positions you are targeting immediately to for next season?
I think, that's a good amount of money. And I don't think people get as much money in NIL as people think, as reported.
Right.
So $10 million is a hell of a lot of money. I mean, most guys,
Whole bunch.
really good ones are getting a couple 100,000 tops, and the most of them are in that, $50,000 range. So, if you look at this team, I think we're pretty set at running back, assuming Evans is going to come back. That'll be interesting to see. I think he needs to come back. Don't be one of those guys, please.
Yes.
You're not even leading rusher on your team. The NFL just ain't always going to be there. Let him get healthy. He needs to come back, have a full season with Juckins, 1-2 punch together next year. But I think tight end is got to be, it's got to be addressed. And we don't need to just go out and get one guy. We need to go get two legit bodied tight ends that can somewhat give us. I mean, we went to that last game and we didn't even have a tight end. Well, watch the game. There was no tight end even out there to block in the run game. And I think that hurt us a little bit too in the run game. Like we didn't have a tight end. Hell, I've seen a couple of times where Mingo was in a 3-point stance, and which is crazy to think about. But I think you go tight end, you got to keep filling up the defense, right? Like the secondary is going to be good. You're going to lose a couple of guys. The secondary is going to be good. Keep on with the D-line. You build teams from the inside out, and that's O-line, D-line. We're going to need as much O-line, D-line as we can get because the skill positions are there. Maybe a wide receiver as well. Maybe a couple burners at wide receiver. I'd like to see some of the ones we've recruited, eventually come to surface. Yeah. I mean, this is crazy. All these 4-star receivers that have never even, shown their head. But I think you got to go defense, O-line, D-line. Let's beef those up. Give me a couple tight ends, and we need probably a wide receiver too. And we need a legit guy, right? We need some guys that can come on, take the top off, and actually play. So,
I'm going to put my conspiracy theory hat on for just a second. I'm wondering if a lot of those 4-star recruits that we had last year, I'm wondering if they were redshirted because of the anticipation of what next season and the following season can be in Oxford, kind of holding them back. We've talked about it, how this was a rebuilding year. And I wonder if that was the approach with a lot of those recruits that came in. Hey, let's not burn a year for this. That's why we went to the transfer portal and brought those guys in, and we're going to have them ready to roll next year. That's just my line of thinking. I wonder if that's the approach.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I mean, it was just kind of weird we didn't see J.J. Henry much after the first couple of games. I know these guys can play in 4 games and still redshirt, so I think that's maybe why we saw him early on. But yeah, I don't. Man, there's some decently talented guys that just have not came to surface. I mean, you got you got Buck Holter's never came up. You got Henry. You got a bunch of these guys, man, that we were really excited to get, and they just haven't really peaked. So. Hopefully they're saving them.
And that brings us back to that transfer portal conversation. If there is some issues going on, we will see their names entering the transfer portal in the next coming days. So that's going to be some important things to watch to see what is the real temperature inside of that locker room in terms of how they are reacting to this coaching staff and what how close this team really is. So that's something
it'll be interesting to see position coaches too, coordinators, position coaches. So last year we had the mass exodus of the coaching staff, right? We had a ton of people leave. People were, questioning, hey, was it Kiffin, whatever. We'll see if this happens again this year. If it happens again this year, then it's just tough. I don't care how good Kiffin is or people think he is. You can't always lose your coordinators. I mean, it's just it's tough, and it's you want a kid to be able to be with a coach and get comfortable with him for a couple of years. You can't be, if you switch O-line coaches every year, switch different guys every year. I mean, it's a different style of coaching, and you want to provide. It's almost like being a freshman to a sense. You're trying to learn new techniques and stuff, but you want to try to create some comfort. Where some guys are stay with the same guy and watch them develop. So this will be interesting to see what happens there as well. I know there's always jobs coming open and whatever, but if we lose 4 or 5 assistants again this year, then holy crap, man.
Yeah, that will be telling for sure, at least in terms of how, people want to work for Lane. Let me ask you this. So now we are getting prepared for a bowl game. You played in 2 bowls. What goes into bowl prep, right? What can the players expect going? Now, obviously, we don't know where they're going, what day they're going to be playing, but what does bowl prep look like for a football team like this?
Man, it's always fun. I always enjoyed it. So, you don't have school. I mean, school gets out,
Right.
Once you take your finals and stuff, and then you get a whole month of just like actually playing what it's like to be in the NFL, right? I'm just at home. There aren't many people on campus. People are going to be home for Christmas break, but, you're on campus, you're by yourself, just you and the football team, and, you're practicing. You get to go in, and live the life of like an actual NFL player. Hey, it's like an extra job. I can go in, watch some extra film. I can do all the little extra stuff. I don't have to worry about class. And it's a good chance for a lot of these guys we're talking about to get a lot of reps. And the first some odd practices are pretty much dedicated to a lot of young guys. Mix them in there. Let's start planning a little bit for the future. Some of the older guys will obviously be they'll get their reps closer to game, but this is a chance for some guys to really get in and evaluate some different players, put them in there because it's hard to do during the season.
Sure,
your game planning and stuff. I can't waste 5 reps on a freshman receiver who has no chance of playing. Now you can. Now you can put some of these guys out there and kind of see what you're going to have going into the spring. So it's great. The bowl practices are people, they're mad, whatever, getting this bowl, that bowl. The benefit is like having extra spring practice, right? Like you get to have an extra month of practice where you can really make some of your younger guys better. And that's the benefits of a bowl game. You don't have to shut it down. But that to me is the main reason to be excited about a bowl.
Yeah, you always hear about the importance of coaches with the extra practice. I never considered it. It's more for an evaluation of the younger players, seeing what you really have, because that I would assume that's going to help Lane determine even more what they've got to go and get inside of the transfer portal. So I hadn't considered that because, you're right. During the week, during the season, you've got to prepare for the opponent. So you've got to get your guys that are going to be playing to actually understand the game plan and get it. So that's pretty interesting. I never considered that. So that's pretty cool. Let's talk quickly about some of the bowl opportunities that the Rebels are going to have. So we can pretty much say we know Sugar Bowl's out. We know Citrus Bowl is going to be out. So I've kind of isolated 6 different bowl games that it looks like the Rebels are going to be eligible for.
It's probably a lot of the games that I was pissed off about earlier in the shows.
There is one that's interesting that would be kind of fun, but you're looking at, they're not going to go to Birmingham. They're not going to go to the Gasparilla Bowl in Florida. Those are going to be reserved for the 6-6 teams. So the bowls that we're looking at, you've got your Liberty Bowl in Memphis, which hopefully that's not the case, but we'll see. You've got the Texas Bowl in Houston. That's against a Big 12 school. You've got the ReliaQuest. It used to be the Outback Bowl. That's going to be in Tampa. It's either against Big 10 or ACC. The interesting one, the new bowl in the rotation is the Las Vegas Bowl, which would actually be played on the 17th against a Pac-12 team. So traditionally, the SEC has not had a bowl tie-in with the Pac-12. So, yes, it's not a huge bowl, but it would be cool to go out to Las Vegas for the fan base. That's a city that you don't get the opportunity to go to. That's kind of the one I'm rooting for. That would be on December 17th.
Can our fans handle a Las Vegas Bowl? I mean, I can see a lot of our very overconfidently party fans that are used to walking around the square.
Vegas is a different animal.
Get a little too overzealous out there in Vegas. Now you got to be on your P's and Q's out there. There's some fleecers out there. Now I'd be a little worried about our fan base showing back up in one piece.
Vegas is a whole different animal out there. But that would be fun. I mean, the Raiders Bowl, Raiders Stadium looks amazing. So that would be a pretty cool environment to go to. The other 2 would be played on New Year's Eve. You've got the Gator Bowl, which is in Jacksonville, and the Music City Bowl, which obviously is in Nashville. I would say that those 2 are probably the most likely for Ole Miss. Gator Bowl versus an ACC team, or the Music City Bowl against a Big 10 school. We'll know next Sunday, a week from today, once the SEC championship and your championship games get played out. Mm-hmm. That's when we'll know where the Rebels will be playing their bowl game.
Where do you want to go? What do you think's the best?
Like I said, if we're talking the best game to go to, I would say probably the Outback Bowl, which is in Tampa on January 2nd, or your Music City or Gator Bowl. I would say we're probably going to the Music City Bowl against a Big 10 school on New Year's Eve in Nashville, which Nashville's a fun town. It's just kind of one of those been there, done that type things, right? And the program's done that before. But, that's what you can expect when you finish 8-4 and you lose some of the games that you're in competition with for bowl games, right? Mississippi State's probably going to get a better bowl because they have the tiebreaker against us. Now I know that
Mississippi State stepped up and been 8-4. South Carolina's now hot.
Yep.
That's the sucky part about losing that last game. You went from being pretty much a shoe-in to the Citrus Bowl. to now there's a bunch of 8-4s, and now you got LSU who's going to have to. I mean, they're not going to get a big bowl because of where they're. I mean, they're 9-3, probably about to be 9-4, and they're going to be they're not going to be in line for one of the bigger bowls. So that'll be interesting to see playoff wise.
You got to think Alabama, assuming that there's not craziness that happens in the next week in terms of teams losing. You got to think Alabama's going to the Sugar Bowl, and LSU's probably going to the Citrus Bowl, and then there's a lot of unknowns that's going to happen from there. That's probably what it's looking like there. But yeah, a week from today, we'll have a better idea of where the Rebels are playing. And yeah, while the bowl game's probably not going to be very sexy, like Bradley mentioned, this is a great time for the team to continue to improve and keep evaluating the roster so we know how to build it better for 2023.
Where we do have an advantage, though, in bowl games, is Ole Miss always travels very well.
Yep.
And, a lot of school, that's going to be taken into account. I know the one year we got the Cotton Bowl that I was there, and a lot of it was just and I think we lost the state that last game. A lot of it was just because, hey, we know Ole Miss will travel to this game, and especially if it's versus a quality opponent. So I mean, there's some solid programs out there that are 8-4. Big 10. There's some Big 12s that I think will be fun matchups. I really do, or around our record. I think it'll be good matchups. It'll be good for us, man. Let's go win a freaking bowl game. I mean, I'd love to beat a Big 10 team or win a bowl game at 9-4. 9-4 season this year. Win a bowl game. Get hot in the portal. I mean, there's still a lot to be excited about. I know this last week was gloom and doom, but I think it's time for us to almost to turn the page, right? Hey, we had this girlfriend. We had this really good looking girlfriend that we let her go on another date. Her go on another date. We've sat down. We've talked to her. Yeah. We're going to take her back. And not only that, we've decided to give her a bunch more money.
We gave her a bigger ring.
We gave her a way bigger ring. Now, this isn't the suggested route for all the men out there doing this, but
no, God, please no.
But we have to turn the page, right? We have to move on. We got to quit lingering on this. We got he's here. He's going to be our coach until next year when a couple other jobs come open. But that's he's our coach now, and we need to get over all the stuff that happened, and we need to start.
He can change the narrative real quick. He can change the narrative real quick.
We go whoop some ass in the bowl game. He gets a bunch of good portal players. Has a good recruiting class. Hey, we're off and running. Honestly, if you look at where I thought we were headed, we're right there on pace. I mean, we're right there. Would I have liked to have overachieved and won 9 or 10? Yes, but based off what we replaced, I think all in all, we got a lot out of the team. And if you beat Arkansas and State, you're like, holy crap, you're really on pace. But it didn't happen, and I think that we have the right pieces in place. And now that we've kept our coach, it's the roster is not going to be depleted, and that's what's most encouraging.
And one thing that's fair to mention, I am not a huge the officials really have it out for Ole Miss. The last 3 games, Alabama, Arkansas, and Mississippi State, there were several questionable calls. The inadvertent whistle in the Egg Bowl, I still have not gotten a good explanation as to why that was the right decision to overturn that fumble.
It was a forward pass anyway, so I mean, that's
and like Lane said in his press conference, when the whistle blows, your guys are always taught to stop, because if you don't, that's how you're going to get a personal foul, 15-yard penalty. I don't understand how that was overturned, especially when it was initially ruled a dead play. But the officials really dropped the ball the last 3 games with some very questionable calls. Yes, Ole Miss could have done a lot of things. I don't think Arkansas matters as much considering how that game went. But there were some really bad calls that went against Ole Miss in those last 3 games, which were really discouraging.
Yeah, the SEC officiating is always hit or miss.
It's pretty awful. A few other things. Before we do that, let's talk quickly. Nest and Wild Mattresses, created by Southern Craftsmen. Nest and Wild Mattresses, powered by decades of experience, backed by a 99-night guarantee. They will help you sleep easy. Made right here locally in Tupelo, Mississippi. Always find them on Amazon or nestandwild.com. So some important dates coming up for the football team. Monday, December 5th. That's when the transfer window officially opens. Now, players can go ahead and say you are entering the transfer portal. Like Ole Miss.
I think Brandon Mack,
correct.
One of our, he's already.
Sophomore from Montgomery. He recorded, I think 7 tackles in 11 games over 2 seasons. Wasn't a huge contributor. He's a defensive end. He's already announced his intentions to go into the portal. So what does that mean? On December 5th, he will be eligible to start I guess, talking to other teams or however that process works, where he can go and try to find his new football home. He could always come back if he wanted to, but it looks like he will be finding a new place to play his college ball.
If you're Judkins, think about this. Think about if you're Quinshon Judkins. Do you say you're entering the portal just to see what the actual market is? Like put yourself in his shoes, right? Like,
why would you put that in the universe? Why would you put that?
I'm not putting that in the universe. I'm just saying.
Did. You did.
If you rush for 1,500 yards and almost 20 touchdowns as a freshman, if you're Ole Miss, you're trying to get his name.
What
signed.
Are you doing?
You're trying to get him signed ASAP.
Why? What are you doing?
I'm just saying hypothetically, if you're in his shoes,
Bradley,
you're in his shoes.
It's been a tough week, dude. What do we do? Why are we going to throw that out there?
Well, listen, I'm just saying. This is what a podcast is. It's hypotheticals, right?
I know.
Does he? Do you do that if you're him?
No, you sign the NIL deal that's at the table.
Of course, if you're Chad Flowers, the fan. Now, if you're Quinshon Judkins, who likes money or wants money. See, and I forgot who did that last year. Some big name player did that last year and ended up coming back, I think. It's interesting. I mean, I'm just saying that it sucks.
You're right. That is the new element
for this reason. For this reason, it sucks.
That's the new element in the game now with the transfer portal, assuming you haven't already transferred, right? So Jackson Dart, yes, he could still technically transfer, but he now has to sit out a year because he already transferred from USC. So yeah, that is something that we're going to have to look at over our shoulder. But once again, that goes back to that point that I made a few minutes ago. The next few days are going to be very telling as to how these players feel about Lane Kiffin. Yeah, the fans can feel one way, the administration can feel another way, but what really matters is how the players that have to play for him feel. Because that's going to tell you if they feel like this is a sinking ship or they don't want to just simply play there. And you're going to always have a year after year turnover, and you don't have a real family dynamic inside of the locker room. That's just the way I look at it.
Yeah, this will be interesting. It really will. Yep. And I'm hoping, if it starts getting crazy and there's a bunch of people entering the portal, which there shouldn't be.
Right.
I
wouldn't think so.
It'll be telling. And if it's any of the key players, that's when I get worried, right? If it's some guys that aren't getting to play, then that's just the nature of the beast. Guys are trying to get to a spot to where they can play. But I don't anticipate a ton of crazy.
That's when the siren
stuff
starts going off. If you're seeing some big names that are entering the portal, we'll have to speculate at this point. The point that you brought up. Yeah, we'll have to speculate if they're doing this for leverage or if they're doing it because they want out, and that's going to be very.
Well, listen, if we're going to do the NFL model, there's going to be some NFL tactics taking place.
True.
And
that's fair.
That is, that's fair. Ole Miss better get that name signed because if you look at it, man, I mean, how do you know your market value if you never actually go into the market?
That's true. I just I cringe at the thought, and that's the way it is. I wish that I won't get into. I won't get into it. I wish universities.
And another way to look at it is, if you are if you're in a rival SEC school and one of your players pops into the portal, run it up to try to knock out some of their NIL fund, right? Like this, there's a whole that's why this has turned into a whole NFL thing. There needs to be a front office type hired, like a legit one. Like we need to have general manager. We need to have legit contract guys. We need to have legit NFL type staff on because there's ways to leverage and play this and create markets. And it's going to be. I'm telling you, man, there's going to be interesting. And there's different tactics. It happens in the NFL all the time. Yeah. Guys will throw a contract offer out there just to run it up because they know how bad the team wants them. Then boom, now we're milking their NIL fund, so to speak.
Not to get too down the road because we could talk for hours on what college football should do. I think that the universities should make players employees. I think the NIL, because universities don't have control over these collectives that are being created, which I think is, good Lord, that is just, that's a nightmare, frankly. But I think the players should be employees of the university, frankly, because really the NIL, all it's doing is taking the money out of the dark and putting it into the light. I don't think much is going to change in terms of boosters being involved because that's what you have with NIL. It's just now legal. I would have taken a different approach, and I think that college football needs an actual commissioner, not the NCAA, because they're a toothless organization. I think the big conferences need to band together, create their own league, and then have someone set a set of rules that everybody's going to abide by. It's probably not going to happen anytime soon, but that's the way I would approach it, or at least those are the steps that I would take towards getting some sanity back into, well, there's never been real sanity inside of this game, but that would create some sanity inside of college football. Because I do think the players should be paid. I am very, very adamant that the players should be paid here. The other important date to remember, early signing day is coming up for your high school seniors, December 21st. So that is going to be when recruits are going to be able to sign with Ole Miss. You've already got some commitments, several 4-star. I think if you're going by the recruiting sites, I think you've got a consensus of around 10 4-star seniors that are scheduled to sign with Ole Miss. We'll see what that happens. We'll see if Lane's able to add some. So, one thing that we've kind of stressed that Lane does have to keep focusing on, we can't just focus on transfers. We have to keep building a foundation through the recruiting process of high school seniors, and hopefully that continues. And I think that right now they're ranked 20th in the country. That's still a good sign, and we've got to keep those numbers coming in addition to the transfers that are coming from other schools.
Yep, agree. And that's the I think high school recruiting. I mean, the number now, it used to mean so much with what they were ranked, but that doesn't mean anything. And that now he's just being selective and trying to take the Aiden Williams and the Perkins type players of the world, and you can go out and get a portal for the rest of it. You don't have to fill up your class with 25 just because they said that you have to do 25. I'd rather save some scholarships for some established players, and that's how he's going to roll, and that's good for him because that's where he's great. He's the portal king, right? He runs it like NFL, and that's good. But at the end of the day, I do want to see some younger guys develop as well.
Yeah.
If you look at the portal this year, you had Dart that came in and did good. A couple of defensive players did okay. But we have to, I'd like to see us hit on some of these high school players as well.
Yeah. So obviously we're going to keep you up to date with what's happening with the roster. We may even get Bradley to evaluate some of the transfers that are coming in, compare them to what we're seeing, because we'll have more tape on those guys compared to some of the high school seniors that are out there. So we will start looking at and evaluating some of the news that comes in with that roster. So obviously, keep liking and subscribing, keep interacting with our videos. What do you want to see with us? Some people have asked me while I've been here in Mississippi, hey, what are y'all going to do once football season's over? We're still going to be doing a show. This is not a football podcast. This is an Ole Miss podcast. So we're going to keep following the different teams. Basketball season, baseball season is right around the corner. We already have some cool things lined up in terms of frequent guests that are going to be calling in during baseball season. So it's going to be an exciting time. So please keep liking, subscribing, interacting with our videos, because we're going to be here every step of the way. And we got some big guests coming on that are going to be pretty exciting to listen to as well. Yep.
Absolutely.
So last thing that I'll mention, I gave a shout out to the men's basketball team, women's basketball team. They're 5-1, dropped a close game against 17th ranked Utah on Wednesday. Coach O's crew 5-1. They got Texas Southern on Monday, so tomorrow at 6 from Oxford. So if you're in Oxford, go and check out Coach O's team. They are playing pretty well, and you can, if you're not in Oxford, you can watch that game on SEC Network Plus. Bradley. So we will still do our midweek shows, so we won't be doing Sunday shows unless big news breaks. Maybe we'll do a recap of the bowl game, but we don't know when that game is going to be played yet. But we'll still do our midweek shows on Wednesdays, so be on the lookout for those. Bradley, until then, have a good rest of your weekend, man. Enjoy some football today, and hotty toddy, my man.
See you, Chad. Hotty toddy.
Thanks for listening to the Brad and Chad Show. Follow the boys on social media for more content. And don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. This has been an OM Network production, brought to you by Blue Delta Jeans, made in the USA.